Okay, everything looks like it should be working. I'm just going to do a little double check because it's been a while since I did one of these streams, and I apologize for that. It's just there's been a lot of stuff going on this month. We've been very, very busy. Okay. Okay, everything is working good. Just going to shut that off so I don't get echo. So, hey everyone, it's Steven from Toastamac, and welcome to another live stream. I know it's been a while, but a lot has been happening this month. Like, me and Mom have made a couple of baking videos, the Greek yogurt brownie and the spooky cookies. So that was a lot of fun. Didn't get as much views as the autism videos usually do, but I wasn't really expecting that. The baking videos was just something for fun. So if you've seen the baking videos and enjoyed them, awesome, great. Mom would actually love to do more of them if you're interested. So there's that, and there's also making the autism videos, making sure they were ready, like the what ableism is and how to stop it. And I've also just finished a couple hours ago, I just finished the autism video going over tips for Halloween for autistic children. So that's something to look forward to. Originally, I was planning to do like a Halloween skit, but due to circumstances beyond my control, I decided to push that back until maybe December, because I think that'll give me, my brother, and my mom enough time to get the stuff recorded for the skit. And also, apparently I'm going to be trading this in for a new camera because these EOS M50 cameras are becoming discontinued recently. So after this, I got to contact Best Buy, get a new camera, and that means I got to do all the preset stuff for the green screen effects again. So that's going to be fun. Just going to give it a few more minutes before we get started with this topic, which is just some Halloween stories from me. Now, it has been a while, but I do want to give an update in regards to the Mediterranean diet. So things have been going well so far. The lowest I've weighed is around like 208, so I'm getting close to losing 20 pounds. So I didn't lose too much more weight. I haven't lost too much, or I haven't lost that much weight yet, because in the middle of October, me and the family actually had to go to Las Vegas to help out with a wedding for a god sister of ours. So that was a lot of fun, but it also meant I had to deviate from the usual Mediterranean diet. But thankfully, due to the habits I gained from the Mediterranean diet in terms of like portion control, not eating so late, reducing the amount of sugars, whatever weight I may have gained from that was negligible. I was able to lose it just as easily. So I'm back on track, and I was able to make my own diet sandwich. So, which is great, because that means I don't have to rely on Subway anymore, that have been too inconsistent and not always there when I need them. Not to mention they're a bit pricey for what they sell. So the diet sandwich I have is David's Killer White Bread, which actually contains a lot of grains in it, no preservatives. Black pepper, turkey, lettuce, spinach, avocado, and cottage cheese, which is actually really good. So I can make those for the week in terms of like my lunch for work. So that way I don't have to constantly go out to eat at Subways all the time. So that's a relief. Now, this coming week, I'm actually going to be adding more exercises to the routine. Not just to hopefully accelerate the weight loss, but also to help strengthen my muscles. That way I don't have the muscle spasm issues anymore. Or at least not as bad as they are right now. So that's the update on the Mediterranean diet. More info will be available within like the following weeks or so. The end of October is going to be pretty interesting though, because November 25th is my birthday. So yeah, I'm going to try to lose as much weight as possible before then. All right, so I think I've waited long enough. Let's go ahead and get into get into today's topic, which is Halloween stories. Now, this ain't gonna be like the like folklore or fantasy stories or stuff like that. I'm just gonna be recalling stories from my childhood, like how I got introduced to Halloween and the different ways I celebrated it. Now, how I got introduced to it is actually an example I put in the autism video coming up tomorrow. It's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown. It's something that's child friendly, not at all scary, and it shows all the basics of what Halloween is all about. It shows about getting a costume, going out to neighborhoods doing trick or treats, and then like a Halloween party as well. So what I really liked about it was like the humor is like, especially the beginning part where Linus and Lucy were rolling the pumpkin into the house. Then Lucy kind of starts carving it, and Linus says, "Oh, you didn't tell me you were gonna kill it." And I think what really got me into like the idea of like costumes for Halloween was when everyone was taking a white blanket or a white bed sheet and then cutting some holes into it, and then boom, you're a ghost. So like I looked at Mom and I said, I want to be a ghost for Halloween. And that's what we did. We got a bed sheet, used some scissors, cut a bunch of holes. No, a couple of holes, not like Charlie Brown's, like where it was like multiple holes everywhere, where that was just creepy. It was just two where I can see through the bed sheet, and then boom, I was a ghost. Now, back then, we had this amazing neighbor, Paul and Dreama, and we would do the trick-or-treating alongside with them. So each of us would be in our costumes. We would get in a van and drive around, and each of us had these glow sticks we have. You know, kind of like the ones where you kind of bend and snap around and then they just glow. I was just so fascinated by it that at times I almost forgot about the trick-or-treating. So we went around doing the trick-or-treats, and then what happened was afterwards, like me and my older brother Daniel, because Thomas wasn't in the picture at this time, me and my older brother Daniel would eat as much candy as possible that night. And then the next morning, we're like, ugh, our tummy hurts. Yeah, back then we couldn't control ourselves. So years went by, we did better, and just saved them for future days. So that was how I first got introduced to Halloween. It was a lot of fun. It was like covering the basics of what it was all about. In terms of like a Halloween party per se, I didn't really do that until like around high school and college time. I'll go into more of that later on in the stream. Now, it was all great. It's all fun. Then we had to move to Maryland. Now, back then, when we first moved to Maryland, we were in Prince George's County in a military base. So honestly, I don't really have too many fond memories of that. Like, there were probably some trick-or-treating here and there, but it wasn't really anything memorable. It wasn't until me and the family moved to Anne Arundel County where I started making some lifelong friends and, you know, getting introduced to all sorts of stuff, especially Boy Scouts. Boy Scouts was, you know, at first, Boy Scouts was like just an excuse for me to hang out with other people or make friends. But it's like as the years go by, it's like I start to appreciate more and more about what I've learned from Boy Scouts. But that's a tale for another time. One of the things that came out of the Boy Scout experience was one of the Scoutmasters, Gary Mahler. He and his mom, I believe, they owned this old house, which was right next to the Jessup Hall, where the Boy Scout troop used to meet. My first troop, anyway. And what was unique about this place is because they had this huge plot of land behind the house, like a whole lot of land. And there was, in like this tree and forest area, there was actually a trail, a long trail, where it was like you would go around, you see some hills, you see some antique stuff. You would also see this two-story shed. I don't want to call it a barn because I feel like a barn would be like something you would relate with animal stuff, but it was more like a shed than anything else, like a big one, where they had this old pickup truck and some other very old equipment, I might add, like, I don't know, maybe over a decade. A lot of it had some rust. So what was great about this trail is not only like being able to walk around it, and like near the end there's like a bridge to cross, but around this area there was a tradition. And the tradition was every year for Halloween they would do a haunted trail. Now, for those that are unfamiliar with it, basically, sorry, I thought I felt a burp coming on. So for those who've never done a haunted trail before, basically a bunch of guests go in a group and they walk down this winding path, like going left, right, wherever the trail leads. And along the trail, there would be all these attractions, like maybe someone popping out from the side to scare you, or maybe this elaborate setup as used to in purpose like luring people in and then scaring them and making them run away and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun. It's more like comical scares than anything else. It's not like the stuff you see in horror movies and stuff like that. It's just mostly for fun and thrills. So, with this Halloween trail, they actually needed some help in regards to, like, having enough people run the different stations and making sure, like, everything was picked up and ready. Like, the Boy Scout troop and I, we actually had to clean up the trail before we could even use it. We do this every single time. Make sure to pick up the trash, make sure there's nothing on the trail that people could trip on, make sure that the scenes that were supposed to play out in the Halloween trail were like cleared out and cleaned up so that people could actually see what's going on and stuff like that. And then afterwards, we would decide who gets to be stationed where. Like someone would be over at the meat cutting station where they would grab the travel guide, pull him around the corner, and then there's like body parts like flying everywhere. Not the travel guide's body parts, I might add. Just, just props, like body part props just flying up there, just to give the illusion. What I had was, it was a pretty straightforward station that I had, and somehow I messed it up. Allow me to explain. So, it's around the beginning of the trail, and you see, if you look to your left on the trail, you would see basically a small graveyard. You would see like maybe 5 graves on there. A couple of them I think were filled up, and there was like the tombstone on there, and then 3 of the graves were opened. And the idea is that the person would lay down in the grave, listen out for the travel guide and the people walking up, and then that person would slowly rise from the grave and then say, "The trail no, let me get into the deep voice. The trail is that way." Of course, I think I had to say it a little louder because, and I had to be careful with the voice because, I needed to be able to project it because I was also wearing a mask because I was supposed to be a Grim Reaper. I was supposed to slowly rise from the grave and be like, "The trail is that way." Although I didn't really see the point of it because, there was only one trail. Where else were you supposed to go? So what happened was, I was getting ready, and my mom was walking around, acting all goofy and silly. And, I was a teenager back then, so I was, kind of getting annoyed. I was like, "Oh, will you stop that?" Because, again, I was a teenager. I didn't know better. I was like, "Oh, my parents are so uncool." Going through that phase. We've all been there at one time. So, here's how I messed it up. So, the sun sets. I'm just lying in the grave in my position, and then I hear my mom acting all goofy. I'm like, ooh, look at this trail over here. What could be out here? And what I do is like, I take my mask off for a minute. I was like, oh my God, Mom, why are you acting so? And as I'm coming up, like, I see my mom, but I also see the attendees. I see the guests there. And what happened was, like, I see the guests, my mom, they're looking at me, and here I am without my mask, standing up as if, like, the scene was not running. Like, it took me a few seconds to realize how bad I messed it up. I was like, oh. So I quickly get down to the grave. I was like, quick, get into character. So I put the mask back on, and I was like, I quickly get back up and say, the trail is that way. But by the time I did, the illusion was already broken. I just ruined it. I completely ruined it. It was like as I was coming up, I was so annoyed by what my mom was doing, and there was this awkward silence. I was like, what? Wait, we just started? And I was so embarrassed. It was like, oh, how can I mess it up? I had one job. Rise up from the grave, tell them where the trail was, and then come back down. And I messed it up. So it's like, what made it worse was that the second time around, like, some of them were new, but some of them, it was their second time. So, like, I hear the cue, I slowly rise to the grave like I was supposed to. It'd be, the trail is that way. And some of them would just wave like, hi. I was like, dang it! I ruined it! The haunted trail was supposed to be haunted and scary, and I ruined it! I swear, I don't know if Mom still remembers that story or not, but I better not remind her of that, otherwise she's never gonna let me live it down. Ugh. So that was like the first time I helped out with a haunted trail, the first time I've ever seen a haunted trail before, and I'm never gonna forget how I screwed up such a simple, easy task. Like, there were a couple more times we helped out with the haunted trail, and, like, I still got to help out. I did the same thing, and thankfully, I don't think anyone from the previous is good, so that way they wouldn't kill the atmosphere. I was like, okay, good. Nobody there recognized me. They didn't remember how I messed things up last year. I'm all good. It's a clean slate. I can just move on and, pretend it never happened. Of course, I'm just bringing it up right now because it's just a funny story. So, yeah, Boy Scouts was a lot of fun. And I was like, I still did some trick-or-treating, but it's like a lot of it, I had a lot of fun with, helping out with the haunted trail. It was probably actually more fun than the actual trick-or-treating itself, And, like, later on, you would see this workshop, where you would meet some more people, and one of them grabs the tour guide and, like, chops them up to pieces, for the show. And then as you get to the end of the trail, there's this bridge you have to cross. And there was these fog machines that were underneath the bridge that made it all foggy and stuff. Like, it would encase the air, like, it would cover the area where the bridge is supposed to be. It's supposed to be very haunted. And what would happen is, as the guests were crossing the bridge, if I'm remembering this correctly, as the guests were crossing the bridge, then someone would come up from behind them with a chainsaw and start chasing after them. The guests would just run out of the haunted trail. Or maybe they didn't have a chainsaw. I know they had something. Something chased them as they were crossing the bridge, and they would, like, run out of the haunted trail. So it was definitely a lot of fun for a few years. And then what happens later on is high school, where me and a few friends would get together to form a Halloween council, which is just basically another way of saying Halloween party. It was just something cool to say. So what happened was it was actually a friend of a friend, Billy, who knew this friend of his, and his parents lived in this really big house with, like, they had this game set up downstairs, kind of like a theater, if you will. And what they did was they planned out a kind of an annual tradition, if you will, where we would go to this house and celebrate. It was like me, Billy, Brandon, and there were a couple others. I can't remember the names for the life of me. And there was one other person that we just called James the Redneck. And James was like, he was like the funny uncle you never had, even though he was a high school student. Like, with James the Redneck, we would always get these like hilarious stories from him and whatnot. And he always had something humorous and interesting to say, stuff we didn't even think about. But, so we all go to this house and we're all dressed up. I was like a cowboy with a trench coat back then with a walking stick. Now what happened was, like, I think it was the first time we had that Halloween party, and we were just, waiting for the sun to go down, play some video games and stuff, listening to some music. And it was actually the first time I got shot with a BB gun. And what happened was, like, I was walking around, minding my own business, and I think it was Billy that kind of snuck around and shot my butt with a BB gun. And for those who never got shot with a BB gun before, that hurts. It does. So I was like, who did that? Ow! Like, I mean, I didn't get too mad at them because, like, we were just friends hanging out. It wasn't anything personal. So here's the thing. So when the sun goes down, we all go out for some trick-or-treating. And mind you, it wasn't like a group of kids. It was a group of young men dressing up in Halloween costumes and going around the neighborhood saying trick-or-treat. You can probably imagine some of the look on the homeowners' faces when the first group of people were like kids saying trick or treat, and then the next one was like a group of guys saying trick or treat. And you can probably imagine the look on their face, like, okay, let me get some candy for you. You kids behaving yourselves? We're like, yeah, we're behaving ourselves. Okay, good. Just want to check. Not judging. Definitely not judging. So, from there, we would go to, like, house to house, trick-or-treats. And here's the strange thing that happens. As we're walking down a certain street, one of us yelled, ow! And then, like, we didn't know what was going on. And then, as we walk further down, another person in the group says, ow! Like, we didn't realize what was going on. Like, turns out there was a couple of kids in the woods shooting us with BB guns. Like, thankfully, it wasn't like paint guns or like BB guns, but it still hurts. So, what happens is we had to take the same road again. We're on our way back to the Halloween party place to finish off the rest of the party. And what happens is, the moment those kids are firing the BB guns again, one of them hit James the Redneck. And mind you, this person was dressed as a barbarian. He had like a heavy wooden sword, like a really heavy one. So the moment he got hit with a BB gun, James turns towards the woods and actually starts charging at them. Like, all right, who wants to get it? Like, he literally stomps across the street towards the woods and scares those two people away. It was like, and the rest of us were like laughing and applauding. It was like, yeah, well done. I think if we didn't cheer and applaud for James would have certainly gone after him, like, deep into the woods and showed them what the wooden sword could have done. So, that was like so much fun. And then, like, we'd be coming back, like talking about what happened, and then just celebrating the rest of the night, waiting for our rides to pick us up and stuff. And we made this a tradition for like a few years, and like even when we were in college, we would still do those we would still hold that Halloween council every year. And I think it was until like late college, and I think the only reason we stopped was because the parents who owned the place was actually going to move to a different state, so we didn't really have a place to do the Halloween stuff anymore. Like, we probably could have, I'm not sure whether or not we did the Halloween party back at my house, but like if we did, there would have been several others there, like Jason and Nick and Joey and all those people. So, it was definitely a lot of fun having a place for us to crash and not think about schoolwork and doing all sorts of parties and stuff like that. It was some very good times, And it's like nowadays it's like Thomas, the younger brother, has actually taken charge of decorating the house during the holidays, and let me tell you, he does an amazing job with decorations. Maybe this weekend I'll take a picture of the Halloween stuff that actually no, I'm not sure if that's a good idea. I'd like to show you, but I don't think that's a good idea. But like my younger brother Thomas would take house decorating to a whole new level. We're talking like blow up balloons where it's like his archway, and then there's some of like Jack Skellington, and he had to throw in the Baby Yoda because he knows I like Baby Yoda. And like he really goes to town with like not just decorating the outside of the house, but inside of the house as well, because he wants to keep traditions alive, like decorating for the holidays and stuff like that. And we've actually had some people, coming to the house for trick-or-treating. So we had to make sure the candy, the pot of candy, for lack of a better phrase, to make sure the pot of candy was accessible to everyone and that they knew where they were going. And, more recently, my younger brother Thomas actually had some friends of his own over to this house for a Halloween party of their own. And it felt kind of weird for me. Like, on the one hand, it was something fun to do, and it's a way for Thomas to interact with, his friends outside of college and outside of online stuff. But like, hold on. So it was a really great opportunity for Thomas, to hang out with his friends here. And, as I was looking at this, I kind of had mixed feelings. On the one hand, yeah, it's something fun to do to celebrate Halloween. But on the other hand, it's like, as I'm looking at Thomas and his friends, playing video games, eating all sorts of sweets and whatnot, it kind of made me reminiscent of the old days. Like back when we were doing that Halloween council thing, the Halloween parties, it kind of reminded me of those simpler days, for lack of a better word, where it's like we didn't have to worry about paying bills or paying car insurance, where we didn't have to worry about whether or not we would still have our jobs the next day, or like what's going on with like the economy, the government, and stuff like that. Back in a time when we didn't have to worry about any of that. All we had to worry about was like, making sure that our friends are good and, getting our homeworks and tests done so that our parents don't yell at us. And, just basically enjoying life. And I think that's one of the big reasons for like, having holidays like this. Not just Halloween, but also like, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter and stuff like that. Having those moments that, allows you to take a break from the regular schedule, that allows you to have a good time with friends and build some good memories in the end. And I think that's what's really important about, having the time to celebrate holidays and, having these traditions where you can hang out with your friends every year, kind of goof around, have a good time. And, just looking at that party that Thomas was throwing with his friends, it made me feel reminiscent and also reminded me that I'm old. Maybe not gray hair old yet, but I'm getting old, complete with back pain. But yeah, those are some stories I had for back when I used to celebrate Halloween. I don't really do it too much these days, namely because I don't really have too many people here to celebrate Halloween with. Like, if I had some more friends here to celebrate Halloween with and hang out with outside of work, you could bet your behind I would do Halloween parties. I'd love to do those. So it's not like I got sick and tired of Halloween parties. Like, oh, I don't want to do trick-or-treating anymore. Oh, I don't want to do Halloween parties because I'm old. No, it's just I don't really have enough people outside of work to celebrate it with. Like, a lot of times it's just people I hang with outside of work, and then some online groups I'm in, including the Star Fox Event Horizon group, So it's like, I don't really do Halloween stuff as much as I used to, but at times it's kind of nice to reflect on what used to be, So I think that's going to wrap it up for the live stream, but what do you think? Do you have some Halloween stories of your own that you want to share? Like, let us know about it in the comments section below. I'd love to hear about it. So, with that, we're going to go ahead and end the stream. So, thank you very much for watching, whether you're watching it live or if you're watching it later on. If you enjoy what you see, consider liking and subscribing to Toastamac and clicking the bell icon to stay up to date in our latest videos. So, this weekend's going to be huge. And the reason being is because we have... On Saturday morning, we will have a new autism video going over some tips for Halloween for autistic children. And then on Sunday at noon Mountain Time, we will have our first ever giveaway live stream. Oh! SM, were you there the whole time? Hey! How's it going? Were you enjoying the Halloween stories? I just saw you there. So... and then Sunday at noon is going to be our first ever giveaway live stream. I'm actually hoping that, several people show up because we got some dragon plushies here that I really need to get out of the house. They're starting to do things, like things I'm not even aware of, I may not be aware of, but I'm pretty sure they were there doing stuff. So this weekend's going to be huge. For about 10 minutes. Okay. So, yeah. So, thank you very much for watching the stream. Hope you can stick around to check out the rest of the content coming this weekend. It's some pretty good stuff. And until the next video or live stream, see you later.